Hi, my name is Mason and I'm 34. I'm an anchor at one of the biggest news channels in America, and a few months back I went through the roughest patch of my life. It took everything in me not to crumble during those times, but I was not alone in my misery. You see, my wife decided to cheat on me with our next-door married neighbor, and it was bad. To top it off, his wife was pregnant, and the whole thing was way too messed up. But we took our revenge in full swing and turned their lives upside down. I will start from the time I met Emma, my wife, which was through a dating app. So at 25, my life as a news reporter was constantly on the go, and the idea of dating apps had never really appealed to me. But with the non-stop hustle of chasing stories and deadlines, I figured it might be the easiest way to meet someone. One night, scrolling through profiles more out of boredom than anything else, I stumbled upon Emma's profile. It was simple, yet there was something about it that pulled me in. Her smile and her quirky sense of humor all seemed to jump off the screen. And after a few messages back and forth, I knew I had to meet her. We decided on a cozy coffee shop in Austin for our first date, and I will not lie. The moment I saw her, my first thought was how pretty she was. As I said, I didn't believe a lot in dating sites, so I was expecting the worst, but she was even more captivating in person, with an infectious energy that drew me in instantly. And so we grabbed our coffees and found a quiet corner to chat. Hours flew by as we talked about everything ranging from books and travel to the most mundane thing like our favorite taco spots in town. She was a graphic designer and, being a freelancer, worked from home, and I was honestly struck by her passion for her work as a graphic designer. You know how people say that if you like a person, you like everything about him/her, and so the same happened to me, I guess? Emma, in turn, seemed genuinely interested in my world of journalism. She admired my dedication to uncovering the truth and telling people's stories, and it felt amazing to have someone appreciate what I did, and her enthusiasm was contagious. We laughed, shared stories, and discovered so many shared interests. It was like we had known each other for years, not just a few hours. Then, as the night went on, I felt that there was something special about Emma. She was kind, intelligent, and had a way of making me feel completely at ease, and I didn't want the evening to end. But then we said our goodbyes, and I was really happy with how everything had turned out. It had been a long time since I had felt such a strong connection with someone. Over the next few days, we texted and talked on the phone, and each conversation only confirmed what I already knew, that Emma was someone I wanted to get to know even better. Recalling all these memories now hurts a lot, but I was basically a lovesick puppy then. The more we hung out, the more I was drawn to her. And even though I was constantly on the move, chasing stories and covering events in different places, Emma and I made it work. From the very beginning, we texted all the time, sharing our days, thoughts, and random funny moments. Whenever possible, we had video calls, which helped bridge the distance, and seeing her smile on those calls always made my day, at that time, no matter how tired I was. When I was back home, we made the most of our time together. We planned special dates, like trying out new restaurants, going for hikes, or just having a cozy night in with a movie and takeout. Each moment was precious, and our relationship only grew stronger. I loved Emma's creativity and kindness, and her work as a graphic designer was truly inspiring too. Then, over time, our bond deepened. We supported each other through everything, and it felt like we were unstoppable as a team. After dating for almost 2 years, I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. So I started planning the proposal, wanting it to be perfect, and then one evening, at the coffee shop where we had our first date, I got down on one knee and asked Emma to marry me. The look of joy and surprise on her face was unforgettable. She of course said yes, and we were both over the moon. We started planning the wedding after the proposal and were full of excitement and love. We decided on a beautifully large ceremony, surrounded by friends and family. It was important to us that everyone we cared about was there to share in our special day. Emma took charge of the creative aspects, and her vision for the wedding was nothing short of magical. From the decorations to the invitations, everything had her personal touch. The reception was a blast too. We danced, ate delicious food, and celebrated late into the night. It was perfect and was a day filled with so much love and happiness. I felt like this was just the beginning of our amazing married life together, but I guess destiny had some other plans for me. After being done with our marriage and our honeymoon, we decided to settle into our charming home in Austin, which we had set up just before our wedding. The initial days were so much fun and life just seemed perfect. My job still took me out of town frequently, but Emma's support was unwavering. Whenever I had to leave, we made the most of our time together before I went, and Emma always had a way of making our goodbyes bearable with her reassuring smile and positive attitude, and our relationship only grew stronger with time. And then, soon after, we welcomed our son, Henry, into the world, and life took on a whole new level of joy and chaos. Henry was this tiny bundle of energy and curiosity. From the moment he was born, he filled our home with laughter and love, and I never thought I could love being a dad as much as I do. Whenever I was home, I made sure to spend as much time as possible with Henry. We had our little routines. I used to teach him to ride his bike, read him bedtime stories, and take him to the park, and watching him grow and learn was the most rewarding experience. Emma was an incredible mom, too. She balanced her work as a graphic designer with being there for Henry and me, making it all seem effortless. There were definitely challenges with my job. Sometimes I would have to leave for a long time at a moment's notice, but we made it work. Video calls became our lifeline, and Emma would send me pictures and videos of Henry's latest adventures. Those little updates kept me going during long trips, and despite the demands of my job, our marriage remained rock solid. Emma and I also made sure to carve out time for ourselves as a couple. We used to plan date nights, even if it was just a quiet evening at home with a movie, because I felt like keeping that connection strong was important to both of us. And I did not want Emma to feel alone and that I was not there for her. Life was not always easy, but we used to face every challenge together, and our home in Austin was my haven of love and laughter, and I couldn't imagine a better life. With Emma by my side and Henry filling our days with joy, I knew we could handle anything that came our way, and I knew for sure that there was no such thing that could tear Emma and me apart until our next-door neighbor moved in. So what happened was, one afternoon, Emma and I noticed a moving truck pulling up next door. Curiosity got the best of us, and we decided to introduce ourselves to the new neighbors, and Emma suggested we bring over a homemade pie as a welcome gift for them. Emma's pies were legendary in our neighborhood, so we figured it was a great way to break the ice. She whipped up one of her famous apple pies, and we headed next door, the day after. We were greeted by Nathan and Sarah. They were a married couple who were about our age and seemed just as eager to meet us. Nathan was a sales representative who worked in a small firm downtown, and Sarah owned a small business of clothing, which paid quite well. They had this friendly, down-to-earth vibe that made us click instantly. We handed them the pie, exchanged some small talk, and invited them over for dinner the next night. That dinner was the start of a great friendship. We quickly became close friends and began spending our evenings together, almost daily. Nathan had a great sense of humor and always had us laughing, while Sarah's warm and caring nature made everyone feel at home. Sometimes we would have cookouts in the backyard, and other times we would gather inside for game nights. It was refreshing to have another couple around who we could really connect with, and I was happy that Emma would no longer feel lonely when I went on trips because she now had Sarah for company. Henry also loved having more people around, too, and loved Sarah and Nathan. They were always so good with him, and he enjoyed the extra attention a bit too much. He often used to try to get in on our game nights, insisting he could help me win. Then, as we got to know Nathan and Sarah better, they shared their big news with us. They had gotten married just a month before moving in because they found out Sarah was pregnant. She was in her second month now, and they were both over the moon about starting a family. We were thrilled for them and offered any support they might need, having been through it ourselves not too long ago. Over time, we became like an extended family to each other. We would share meals, swap stories, and support each other through all of life's ups and downs. Whether it was celebrating birthdays, helping each other out with house projects, or just hanging out and unwinding after a long week, we were there for one another. Emma and Sarah also bonded over their shared experiences, and Sarah often sought Emma's advice on pregnancy and motherhood. Nathan and I would talk about work, life, and everything in between, usually while grilling in the backyard or watching a game. It was comforting to have friends so close who understood the juggle of careers, family, and everything else. Then, with time, Sarah's baby bump grew, and with it, our excitement for them. We could not wait for Henry to have a little playmate next door. As Sarah's due date was just months away, Emma and I made sure they knew we were there for anything they needed. One of my favorite memories when all was fine was a Saturday evening when we decided to have a backyard campfire. We roasted marshmallows, laughed about the silliest things, and watched as Henry, completely fascinated by the fire, tried to toast the perfect marshmallow. Those simple moments felt the best when we had no idea the storm was brewing in the back. As time went on, I noticed that Emma began visiting Nathan and Sarah's house more frequently. At first, it was just occasional visits to drop something off or help with a project. Emma and Sarah had become good friends, so it seemed natural. But then, even when Sarah was at work, Emma would still head over there, always for some reason or another, like checking on the house, borrowing something, or just handling Nathan some things. Sarah left for the office earlier than Nathan and was at the office for most of the day because her small business used to take up much of her time, and even if she tried to get home early, it would be around 9 at night. I brushed it off initially, trusting Emma completely because we have always had a solid relationship and I didn't see any reason to doubt her. But then, one evening while we were having dinner, Henry innocently said out of nowhere, "Mama's always with Nathan when Sarah's not home." I was a bit taken aback, but then Emma quickly laughed it off, saying Henry was just being silly and that she was just being a good neighbor, and that she is usually helping him with something Sarah wants to get done around the house. I wanted to believe her, but a nagging feeling in my gut told me something was off. I tried to shake off the uneasy feeling, but it lingered. A few days later, I noticed Emma heading over to Nathan's again. This time, she said she was dropping off some cookies she had baked. It seemed like a kind gesture, but the frequency of these visits was starting to gnaw at me. One Saturday, I decided to work from home to catch up on some emails. Emma had mentioned she was going to Nathan's to help with some yard work. An hour later, I glanced out the window and saw them laughing and talking in the backyard while Emma was helping him lift something up. I was out most of the time and was usually at the office, so these things bothered me even more, like what would be happening when I was not there and things like that. I wanted to believe Emma, to trust her as I always had. But these instances were making it hard to ignore the nagging feeling in my gut. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I also couldn't keep brushing it off. But even though my trust wavered a lot, I brushed all these thoughts off and focused on only being a loving husband to Emma and dad to Henry. But then things like this started happening. One evening, as we were putting Henry to bed, he again asked Emma if Nathan could come over for story time tomorrow, and proceeded to say that Nathan was really funny. This twisted my mind so much that I asked Emma right there if Nathan had been here earlier, but she just laughed it off and denied it at once, saying that Henry was just a small kid spouting nonsense. But one thing I noticed about Emma was that she got really flustered and uneasy whenever Nathan's topic was out, and Henry's words kept replaying in my mind after that, so I started to pay more attention. That weekend, we had Nathan and Sarah over for a barbecue. I could not help but watch the interactions between Emma and Nathan. They seemed a bit too comfortable, exchanging looks and inside jokes that I was not privy to. But Sarah didn't seem to notice and was busy talking to Emma about baby preparations, so I thought I was the one with faulty thoughts and decided to stop thinking about this thing altogether. Now, a few months back, I was sent on a work trip to New York to cover some important data down there, and I was set to return 2 weeks after. But my work in New York got wrapped up earlier, so I decided to surprise Emma and Henry by returning 3 to 4 days earlier than planned. My flight landed at Austin Airport at 8 in the morning, and I quickly hailed a cab to get back home. I reached home and was very excited and eager to surprise Emma. I knew Henry would not be at home because he had recently started going to school and would most probably be there now, so I thought that Emma and I could have a bit of alone time. I brought flowers for her on the way and also had a necklace in my suitcase for her, which I had brought from NY. But as I walked up to our house, I noticed that the front door was slightly ajar. My heart raced as I entered quietly, hoping it was just a mistake and Emma might have left it open. But when I went inside, the scene that unfolded before me was like a cruel twist of fate. Emma and Nathan were on our couch, wrapped in each other's arms, kissing passionately. Our couch was placed in such a way that it had its back to the door, so they did not see me standing there in the doorway, but I saw everything all too well. Also, they were so preoccupied with each other that they did not even notice that I was there. I was frozen in disbelief and the whole air felt thick with betrayal. I had no idea what to do and how to react. I was just dumbfounded, and then as if something in me clicked, I decided to take a picture of them. I quickly clicked a pic and stepped back outside, needing to collect my thoughts. I couldn't process what I had just witnessed. The weight of it all hit me like a ton of bricks. Emma, the love of my life, and Nathan, our neighbor and supposed friend, were deceiving me. How could they do this? My first thought at that time was to tell Sarah everything, so I pulled out my phone and with trembling hands dialed her number. She needed to know. Sarah arrived within minutes and her expression shifted from confusion to devastation as I showed her the proof. We stood there, outside my own home, feeling a mix of anger, hurt, and disbelief. I was all for confronting them head-on, there and then, But Sarah stopped me and said she had better plans. She was as hurt and angry as I was, but she was also determined to handle this with dignity and a full-fledged revenge plan. We did not discuss anything further because we both were in a state of shock and struggled to find words. We sat in her car, trying to make sense of it all, and after a while, I asked Sarah to park round the corner so that I could tell Emma about my return. I called her and told I was back. There was clear shock in her voice, and I knew all too well why. After a while, we saw Nathan running out of my house to his, and we both decided to return home and talk about it later. Then, the next day Sarah and I discussed what to do. She told me that she would not forgive Nathan so easily and would have her revenge for the sake of her unborn baby. Sarah was in her third trimester and I could understand how this was all the more difficult for her. I was worried sick about Henry and everything, but looking at her, I was a bit thankful for my situation. Sarah and I knew we needed undeniable proof before confronting them or taking any other step. It was not just about catching them in the act, it was about facing the truth head-on and making them understand the consequences of their actions. So Sarah came up with a plan, and as much as it pained me, I agreed. We needed to gather concrete evidence. So we decided to set up hidden cameras in Nathan and Sarah's house, because now that I was home, I doubted they would spend time here. It was risky, but we were both determined to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. Using my connections as a news reporter, I discreetly obtained the necessary equipment. We needed high-quality cameras that could capture clear footage without being detected, and it took some time. But I managed to get everything we needed without raising suspicion. Installing the cameras was nerve-wracking. We had to be careful not to arouse any suspicion from Nathan or Emma. We strategically placed them in areas where we felt like they would have often spent time together, like the living room and Nathan's home office. After we finished setting up the cameras, a sense of grim satisfaction settled over me. This was our chance to uncover the truth, and despite the pain, I knew deep down that this was the right thing to do. They couldn't get away with betraying us like this. But through it all, I kept thinking about Henry and how this would impact him. Over the next few days, we monitored the footage carefully. It was heartbreaking to watch, seeing Emma and Nathan together, oblivious to the pain they had caused. They seemed so comfortable, so casual about their lie. Sarah and I spent hours reviewing the footage, documenting every interaction, every moment of intimacy between them. It was like watching a slow-motion train wreck, unable to look away despite the devastation it caused. And then as the days passed, our resolve only strengthened. We could not let them continue their affair without consequences. It was not just about revenge, it was about justice, and they needed to face the reality of what they had done to us, to our families. Sarah had devised the second part of our plan swiftly, and now with the footage in our hands, we went ahead with it. Sarah retrieved Nathan's boss's email ID from his laptop and wrote an urgent, anonymous email to Nathan's company, attaching the damning video footage. In it, she demanded that they terminate his contract immediately or face the risk to their company's image. It was a bold move, but we needed to ensure Nathan faced consequences for his actions. Meanwhile, I took on the task of mailing the video to Emma's parents. It was a painful step, knowing it would shatter their perception of their daughter, but they deserved to know the truth just as much as we did. It was part of holding Emma accountable for her betrayal. Simultaneously, Sarah and I created an anonymous Facebook account. We painstakingly added every relative of both Emma and Nathan to ensure the widest reach possible. Sarah then posted the video, exposing Emma and Nathan's affair to their families and friends. It was a decision made out of anger and hurt, but we felt it was necessary for everyone who trusted them to see the truth. Then, as the video went live, Sarah and I braced ourselves for the fallout. We knew there would be consequences, but we were prepared to face them. We had perfectly planned everything, and when the video went live, Nathan was at his office and Emma had gone over to her parents' house with Henry, while I had made an excuse of work. And to no one's surprise, Emma's reaction came first. Her parents received the video we had mailed them while she was there, and though I was not there to witness their initial reaction, Emma called me in tears soon after, confirming my suspicion. She was furious and devastated, accusing me of destroying her life and betraying her trust. Her words were laced with desperation and denial, unable to comprehend the extent of the damage her actions had caused. In the evening a while later, Emma and Nathan both came running to my place. Emma must have called Nathan, and so they came running up to me, thinking I had done it all. "What the hell, Mason? How could you do this to us?" Emma's eyes were red from crying. I can't believe you would stoop so low. You have ruined everything. My parents hate me. Actually, it was my idea. Mason just helped me execute it. Sarah, you? Yes, me. You both thought you could betray us and get away with it? Did you think we wouldn't find out? Emma's anger flared again. You had no right to expose us like that. We could have handled this privately. Privately? You were sneaking around behind our backs, destroying our families. Privacy went out the window when you decided to cheat. Did you ever think about Henry or me while you did all this? Emma stayed silent. You have ruined my career, Mason. Do you understand that? I have lost everything because of you. And what about what you have cost us? Do you think we haven't lost anything? Our trust, our love, our families, and all because you two were selfish. You did not even think about your unborn baby Nathan, and that is how selfish you are. Sarah, please, don't say that. I love you. We can work through this. It is just a misunderstanding. Yes, Mason, it is a big misunderstanding. Please, we can fix this. We can talk about it and work it out. Are you guys sick? We have clear footage. What kind of misunderstanding could that be? Do you want me to play it out here loud? There's nothing to talk about. You broke us. There is no coming back from that. We are done. We are both filing for divorce. No, Mason, you can't. Yes, I can, and I will. We are leaving you both in the mess you created. Mason, come on. Think about Henry. And you too, Sarah, please think about our baby. There was desperation seeping into Nathan's voice. Don't even talk to me or my baby. It's not yours anymore. And don't tell me what to do with my kid. I am thinking about Henry, and I'm thinking about what is best for him. Nathan, please. Please give me a last chance. I swear to never do this again. Please. Mason, it's too late, Emma. You should have thought about that before you decided to betray me. Sarah's expression softened for a moment, but then she shook her head. You both made your choice. Now you have to live with it. A few days after the whole thing, Nathan's company responded swiftly to Sarah's anonymous email with the video evidence, and I also received a call from a friend who worked in the same industry, telling me that Nathan had been terminated immediately due to a breach of conduct. The news spread quickly, and soon Nathan was a laughingstock even after being fired. On social media, where Sarah had posted the video anonymously, the reactions were swift and brutal. Relatives and friends of both Emma and Nathan were shocked and horrified by what they saw. Some expressed disbelief, while others condemned Emma and Nathan for their betrayal. It was a public reckoning that neither of them could escape. The days following the exposure were tense and emotionally draining. Emma and Nathan's lives unraveled before them, and their reputations were tarnished irreparably. I also received angry messages from mutual friends who could not believe what had happened and questioned why we had chosen to reveal such private matters in such a public way. It was a storm of emotions, but through it all, Sarah and I stood firm in our decision to confront the truth. As for Henry, I tried to shield him from the worst of it. I did my best to keep things as normal as possible for him despite the chaos. Emma and I, of course, weren't living together anymore, but I made sure she couldn't take Henry away from me. I reassured him that he was loved and tried to help him understand that Mom and Dad were not going to live together anymore because of some grown-up things. Even though he was just a kid, I could see how hard it was for him, but I did my best to protect him from the harsh realities of the adult world. Sarah and I both decided to file for divorce shortly after the whole drama. It was a painful decision, but it was necessary for our peace of mind and for the sake of our future. We contacted our respective lawyers and started the legal process. The evidence we had, the videos, emails, and all the documented proof, gave us a strong case. It was clear-cut, but that did not make it any less painful. The legal proceedings dragged on, with each step being a reminder of the betrayal we had endured. Sarah and I supported each other through every deposition, every court appearance, and every piece of paperwork. Emma tried to downplay the affair, but the evidence spoke for itself. There was no denying the clear images and audio we had captured. Nathan, too, attempted to salvage his reputation, but the damage was done. Their actions had consequences, and the court took them seriously. One of the most challenging things was the custody battle for Henry. I was determined to gain custody, knowing I could provide him with a stable and loving environment. The evidence of Emma's infidelity played a significant role in the court's decision. It was heartbreaking to think about how this would affect Henry, but I knew I had to do what was best for him. During the hearings, I presented the evidence, showing the court the extent of Emma's betrayal. The judge reviewed everything carefully. My lawyer argued that Henry deserved a stable home, free from the chaos and deceit that Emma's actions had brought into our lives. Emma's lawyer tried to counter, but the evidence was overwhelming. The day the judge awarded me primary custody of Henry was bittersweet. I was relieved and grateful, but also saddened that it had come to this. I wanted Henry to have a happy, carefree childhood, not one marred by his parents' divorce and the betrayal that led to it. Sarah's divorce from Nathan was just as tough. She was the one with the money in their household since she owned her own brand, while Nathan was just a sales representative. It was even harder for Sarah because she was pregnant and her due date was coming up soon. Nathan put up a fight, trying to keep control over their shared stuff and their lives. But the evidence of his affair with Emma gave Sarah a big advantage. She came out of the legal battle with her head held high, ready to move on and rebuild her life. In the end, Sarah and I both gained a sense of closure. The legal system had acknowledged the betrayal and held Emma and Nathan accountable. With Henry by my side, I am beginning to rebuild my life and focusing on the future and the new beginnings that lay ahead. Whereas Emma and Nathan are exactly where they are supposed to be, abandoned from the world and no one to look up to.